Hi, everybody. It's Angie Rupert, founder of Rupert Law. We handle exclusively E-2 and E-1 visas. So no matter what treaty country you're from or where you want to be, we can help. Take a moment, please, to like and subscribe. That way, when we come out with these new videos, you're always one of the first to know. You're on the exclusive list of updates. In addition, if you find this video useful, and we really hope that you do, please share it with a family member or friend who might also be interested in the E-2 visa. Thanks so much for that. Now that we got the housekeeping out of the way, let's talk about the matter at hand, right? What are the updates for E-2 visas in Canada? And we've got a few. So let's start with the positive stuff, right? Positive things are Canada's still doing lots and lots of E-2 visa interviews, one of the most popular consulates in the entire world for E-2 interviews. So if you go there, you are in great hands. The consular officers there have a lot of training on the E-2 visa. They really understand it well. So you're in good hands if you go there. Now, another note. This is not an update. This is how it's always been. But just a reminder, if you are Canadian and you want to apply for the E-2 visa at the consulate, you will need to go to Toronto, right? So I know our British Columbian friends and some others throughout the country kind of get bummed out about that, but that is the case. You will need to go to Toronto. Now, an update. Starting in September of this year, so only several weeks ago, every family member applying for the E-2 visa, child, spouse, that type of thing, everyone will need to go to the interview. I know, but Angie, I only have 2 kids. One's 6 months old, one's 3. Yes, they also must attend an interview in person. They need to go to Toronto and they need to be there. Okay. That is something that is new. Prior to that, kids under the age of 14 did not need to be there. They now do. So you will need to plan that flight. If you are in the middle or on the West Coast, you will need to plan that flight to Toronto for everybody. Everybody's going to have to go to the interview. Okay, that's one update for 2025. That's also around the world. That's not just Canada, but that is the new rule regarding interviews. Over the summer, we were seeing a lot of RFEs, which is a request for evidence, right? So that usually happens via email, and it usually happens after the application is submitted, but before the interview. And during that time, sometimes they will send an email that says, hey, please submit these additional documents, right? We don't understand this. Please submit that. In Canada, historically, at least our experience, RFEs were incredibly rare. We had only received one prior to this summer in all the years of us doing applications. And that was during COVID because there was a very long time between application and interview because the consulates were closed. Other than that, we had never received an RFE. In May and June, we received a rash of RFEs, all within a couple of weeks of each other. But the good news is we are no longer receiving those types of RFEs. So it's unclear, right? Is that just us? Was it just those clients? Did the consulate really need additional information? Were they undergoing new training? Nobody really knows for sure. And when I say nobody, I mean nobody outside of the consulate in Toronto knows for sure. But it appears that a lot of those RFEs are starting to kind of go back to normal levels, which would be rare. Now, the good news is that doesn't mean that you're denied. In fact, most RFEs are approved, at least in our experience. But just to note, that is something that could happen. And if you do get one of those RFEs via email, please respond to it, right? That's going to be critical, okay? So next note that I had. Oh, and this is also around the world, but it really affects Canadian or affects the U.S. consulate in Toronto maybe more than other places. Historically, the consulate in Toronto was very friendly to what we call third country nationals. That means, hey, I'm a citizen of another country and I reside in another country, but for whatever reason, I'm not able to do an interview in that country. I will go to Toronto to do the E-2 visa interview. That was something that a lot of people around the world were doing if their country was incredibly backed up for E-2 visa interviews. If there was some sort of other issue why they were not going to be able to go to their home country, Canada was somewhat friendly to third country nationals. However, that is no longer the case. So that is another new-ish rule that really third country nationals are not going to be able to apply for non-immigrant visas somewhere else, right? So if you are from a country where you thought, oh, I'll go to Canada, it'll be way faster, it'll be more streamlined, they understand it better than in my home country, whatever the reason was, that's no longer an option, okay? So keep that in mind. So if you're from a country where there's a long wait time between application and interview, and there are still a handful of them around the world that has lingered on since COVID, you will still need to apply in your home country or a country where you have residency, legal residency with a visa, that type of thing. Okay, so keep that in mind. And for now, those are the Canadian updates. Again, let's bookend it with some positive information. Almost all of our E-2 visa applications in Canada were approved this year, which is amazing news. They are doing lots and lots of interviews. As always, they're very well trained. You're generally going to be in great hands if you go to the U.S. Consulate in Toronto. So if you are from Canada or anywhere and are interested in the E-2 visa, give us a call anytime. We'd love to speak with you about your E-2 visa.